Good morning, everybody. It's Peter here from AJS, and it is once again my delight to take you into a jeweller's workshop somewhere in Australia. And this week we're heading to sunny Geraldton and the even sunnier Penny Layton. Welcome back, Penny.
Hi, thanks for having me back. Good morning, everybody.
Great to see you, Penny. And I'll just bring you up on the screen. There you are in your workshop.
Yep.
And today, Penny, we're having an adventure in reticulating silver. Would you like to just define what that means?
Yes, so reticulation or reticulating silver is a process where we achieve the texture of the metal to become rippled or maybe cavernous. What else? How it's ridges. Like it is just the. Some people might think it looks like you've just melted the metal, but it's actually a process called reticulation, giving a great texture to your metal that you can then incorporate into your jewelry. I'm going to demonstrate today on some very small pieces, but probably what you would want to do is reticulate a larger piece, and then you can cut out of the reticulation, out of that larger piece, the reticulated pieces you want to use within your jewelry. So I did a little play yesterday on just a little tiny piece that I had something to show you. I don't know which one to. So it's going to be a bit difficult to see on the camera, but that was just a little piece there. This is a piece that I made quite a long time ago, and you can see there in the middle all of the reticulation there. So this is every piece is going to be different. You can't replicate it, so no two pieces are the same. You never really know what you're going to get, and that's kind of like how I like to make my jewelry, just experimenting, never knowing what's going to come out, and then, you know, not always do I use that piece immediately. Sometimes they have to sit on the bench for a while, and I have to look at them, you know, day in, day out, until finally I see something within the piece. So this is a really fun project to do if you're not scared to experiment and freelance, maybe. Now you can reticulate sterling silver, but there's quite a long process to get it to where we need the metal to reticulate. You can also buy reticulation silver, and that takes out all of the work. But I'm also a big believer in, I keep all my scraps, and I use my scraps in all sorts of ways. So I'm more about using what I have on hand rather than just continuing to purchase more and more stuff. Having said that, if you don't want to go through the process of getting your sterling silver prepared to reticulate, then by all means you can purchase a reticulation silver that all your hard work's been done for you. So the hard work that I'm talking about is annealing, cooling, pickling, and then you have to abrase it or rub it with a soft brass brush. So the things that we need today to reticulate the silver, it's predominantly torch work. I've got a dish with some soapy water in it, my brass brush. I've got my pickle pot on, nice and hot, some water to rinse as well. So to prepare the sterling silver, let me tell you a little bit about what sterling silver is. 2.5 is silver, and 7.5 of that is copper. What we want to do is have all the copper build up in a core in the middle of the silver and the fine silver to the top, so that the copper will melt and ripple underneath the silver. So I hope that makes sense.
Very scientific.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's and that's about as scientific as I get in my entire life. Reticulation silver, though, is 80% silver and 20% copper. So the reticulation silver, you may get better results, you may get better ripples, and it's probably a little bit easier to control. But, you know, like I keep saying, I like to experiment, and, you know, this piece that I did yesterday, I melt a hole in it, but, you know, maybe I can still use that within my design. It's no real big deal. So I will do a quick kind of anneal and cool and quench and rub with the brass brush so that everyone can see. But you have to do this at least 10, 15, 20 times. So I recommend keeping a little tally because it's really easy to lose track of where you're up to. And over the process of all this annealing, you'll eventually see your silver just getting whiter and whiter and whiter. You'll have no oxidization. Once we get to that point where there's no oxidization, you don't have to use the brass brush anymore. But you do need to keep on annealing so that we've got rid of all of the copper on the surface. That's what the annealing is doing, bringing some of the copper to the surface. We need all of that gone. We need the fine silver to the top, the rest of the copper to be in the middle, in the core, and so that it will melt and cause the fine silver on top to ripple. So let's get soldering, not soldering, annealing. Let's get the torch on.
So, Penny, what's the indicators that the copper is going to the middle and the silver is coming to the top?
It is a matter of the sterling silver being really white. I did say to Peter earlier, I've just put a new oxygen bottle on and it stopped ticking. It makes a little ticking noise, so I apologise for any horrible ticking. You have to just keep doing those annealing and you'll see your silver really, really white. No longer will you have any dark spots on the surface of your silver when you're annealing it. That way you'll know that there's no copper on the surface. That's what we're after, no copper on the surface of your metal. So
Penny, just before you start, I'd just like to welcome our regulars, Gail and Orietta. Thank you for introducing yourself this morning. And we've got a nice little group of people online, so if you'd like to introduce yourself, that'd be wonderful. And if anyone knows the solution for that ticking from Penny's oxygen cylinder, please let her know about it.
Yes.
Okay.
It's stopped at the moment, but it comes and goes. So I'm just going to anneal. This is sterling silver 0.5 sheet that I'm using. It was just a little bit of leftover that I had, probably a little bit too small for me to do too much with, but I needed something so that we could demonstrate today. Maybe something if you're just starting out on your reticulation journey, I don't really like that word, adventure, then maybe something a little thicker because it's very easy to melt your silver when it's really thin. So I'm just annealing this first. This piece here has not been annealed at all in any way. So the process of annealing, I'm just heating up the metal, moving the torch across, and I kind of call it like a fluid movement of heat. I can see the heat chasing from one end of the metal to the other. That's how I know. So I'm not sure if you can see that on the screen, but the heat is moving from one end to the other on the metal. I know that that piece is annealed. So then I'm just going to quench that. And pop it in my pickle pot, let that get all the oxidization off that piece of metal. My pickle pot's nice and hot, so hopefully it won't take too long. You do need that all of that oxidization removed, but the brass brush will help remove any of that oxidization that the pickle doesn't take off. Another thing that we need to talk about is the water with the brass brush. So we want a little bit of soapy water, and the brass brush, like I said before, needs to be a nice soft brush. We're just taking the oxidization off the top. We're not trying to scratch or anything. Make sure that you do use some water with a little bit of soap in it for lubrication. An interesting thing that I did read while I was doing a little bit of research for this as well myself was that if you don't use water with your brass brush, you can plate the silver with brass. Now, we don't need any more alloys on there, so really important that you do use a little bit of water so that we're not coating the silver that we're trying to anneal. So I'm just taking the piece of silver out of the pickle pot there now. And I'm just going to reach across here. So now I'm not sure which camera I'm going to.
Here we go.
Which one?
I'll go back to that mobile there. I'll get it for you.
So there we go. Now it's been annealed, so no longer is it dark where when I oxidized it from heat. So I'm just going to use the brass brush with a little bit of soapy water. I'm holding it in my hand, just giving it a good rub. And the brass brush will bring it up real shiny again. Take any of that oxidization on there off. And now it's nice and shiny again. Let me just get that. You can see that nice and shiny again now.
Yep, beautiful.
Yep. Right, so that's so I would just have a little piece of paper here. I just make a little one. That's my first anneal, and I would do it again. My hands are so good. Same process. I'm not going to do 20 times, guys. Don't worry. That would be pretty boring. I'm just going to do a couple so that you can. So just anneal the piece again. Heat it up until I can see that heat moving across the piece of metal, that chasing effect that I call. Heat up the whole piece. So that's looking. So already just the difference between that anneal and the first one, you can see it's not as dark as it was that first time. Doesn't quench that. We'll pop it back into the pickle pot. So the two pieces that I did yesterday, I'll come back to the mobile piece. So that
Okay, here I come.
The two pieces that I did yesterday that have been annealed about 20 times. I did lose track a couple of times because I get distracted. You can see now are quite white. That's 0.5, this sheet. And this one here is just a little slither. This is 1 mil. I thought I'd just have a go with the thicker piece as well, just to see what I can do with it. So as you anneal and the piece gets whiter and it is harder to see whether the piece is annealed or not, your torch flame becomes orange and it flashes orange as you move it across the metal, because no longer will the silver be dark and it'll be really hard to tell whether it's annealed. But as long as you keep a running tally and make sure that you at least do 10 to 15, if you really want to make sure, go more than 15. And you'll read up about this later, I'm sure, and there'll be loads of people that'll tell you, yeah, you only need to do 3 to 5. Some people will say you'll only need to do, 8 to 10. I think that probably somewhere between 10 and 20 is the right number. Maybe I'll do one more on this piece just to see if I can start to see less oxidization on it. I actually want to scrub that with the brush before I do that.
So I will invite people who are watching, if you do have any comments or questions along the way, please fire ahead with the asking them in the comments section. That would be great.
I'll do this piece one more time.
And just while you're doing that, Penny, sorry, just like to also give a shout out to Maria and Russell, Ruth and Wayne. We've got some viewers from Tassie and New Zealand. So we've definitely got an overseas contingent there today.
Yeah, nice. Hi, everybody. Welcome. So that's in the other game. So even just now 3 times. Keeps getting a message on it. I've still got, so all this dark area will eventually go with every anneal that I do, and it'll get whiter and whiter until it's as white as that piece.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe what I can do is heat that white piece up so that you can see the orange flash. That might be a good idea. That way then you'll know what you're looking for, because as I say, the more you anneal it, the harder it is to see whether it's annealed or not. And these pieces I have been annealed many a time, so there'll be no sort of darkening. So see how the torch now has got that orange flash at that bottom. So that's annealed, and the metal itself doesn't have any real. It's still stayed white. I've got a couple of little dots on there, but I'm pretty sure that might actually be something off my brick rather than any copper coming through. So it does get harder to see whether it's annealed or not.
So, Penny, Elizabeth has asked, each time you anneal, does the process get shorter or not?
Yeah, that one didn't take very long at all. You know, like the torch went quite orange really quickly, so it will get shorter because, yeah, there's not as much that we're actually not. When we anneal, we're annealing usually to make the metal soft enough for us, or malleable enough for us to bend it or do something with it. But this process, we're not after that. We're trying to draw the fine silver to the top. So we've got like a skin of fine silver encasing the copper in the core. So it's not about being able to make the piece malleable. It's we're trying to achieve something different here in the silver. So yes, you just the more times you anneal it, like I say, you'll see that flash of orange rather than looking for that metal color change. And if you heat it up too much, you can melt it. So you do have to be, the more you anneal it, you do have to be really careful and watch it so that you don't just melt it. So
there's a fine line, and I suppose experience is the best teacher on that one.
It is, and that's why also probably playing with something that's a little larger rather than something so small might help in that situation as well. So what I might do is I might try to reticulate this piece that I prepared yesterday now, so that we can actually get beyond all of this just annealing and scrubbing and cooling and everything. So now it's just about playing with the heat and the metal. You do need to have pretty good torch control and really, really, really watch the metal so that you don't end up melting it. So I'm just going to, I've got quite a warm sort of torch, but I haven't got anything that's super scorching or super hot. And I'm just going to move across the metal quite evenly. Now I'm looking for the sterling silver to go super shiny. So I'm just going to heat it up. And then I might just go, there's that flash of orange. So I'm just going to work in one area. Now, looking at the metal, waiting for it to go a shiny, really shiny colour. So what's happening is we're heating up the copper because there's a skin of fine silver over the top. So you can see, oh, there it just went just a little bit there. So now I'm going to move to another area. It's just starting to go a different colour underneath the torch. I'm just going to move again. Kind of see, yeah, it's shiny. Now I'm just going to move all over the piece, keeping an eye on it. It kind of looks like it's bubbling. Like you can almost see that fine silver blister, I guess, is another good way. Now all I want to do is just play with it and get it. There is a little bit there. If I hold it in the one place for too long, it will melt. But I want it to ripple. I want it to bubble without it melting. I should also mention too that expect shrinkage of your piece. So don't go cutting the exact size that you want for your piece of jewellery that you're making, because it will shrink. So it's bubbling quite a lot now. We'll just melt a little hole right there.
It's quite impressive.
So I'm going to turn that off. I've got a couple of little holes, but I'm working with quite thin metal. It doesn't take much for it to get away from you. So this is super hot now. I'm going to just quench that. So it'll be really hard to see because it's black from where I've heated it up and it's oxidized. So now I'm going to put this in the pickle and let that clean up a little bit. Then I'll scrub it with the brass brush so that you guys can see. But I'm going to try with the little thicker piece that I had as well now and just see what kind of effects I can get there.
So just while you're lighting up, I'd like to thank Elizabeth for her question before, and hello to her, hello to Christine as well. And Orietta has asked if she could upload a picture for some advice, but please feel free to do that, Orietta. Unfortunately, Penny won't be able to see that until after the demonstration this morning. So I'm sure she'd be happy to give you some comments on that later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. So exactly the same. You can see quite well that how orange that flame is. So this piece would be a anneal, but we're going to try and reticulate this as well. And this is gone quite shiny quite quickly for me. Good bubbling. So once you start to see it go shiny and bubble, like play, like pull it in and out, hold it longer. And like I say, no two pieces are going to be the same. So you really have no idea what you're going to get until you play. And like I said before, you'll get far better ripples in the reticulated silver to using sterling silver and the process that we've done today. But there's nothing wrong with the process that we've done today. And like I said, I'm all about using what I have on hand. Well, that's a good one. Put that in there. Cool. Let's have a look at the bit that I've done earlier. So it's been in the pickle for a little while. I'll just show you before I, just so that you can see. Oh, there we go. Brilliant. Now I'm just going to scrub this one. The other thing you can do with that piece of jewellery that I showed at the beginning, I used some liver of sulfur to oxidise and make the pattern stand out a little more or look a little differently. Because if you're not a real super shiny kind of person, like you don't really like your silver to be super shiny, then using liver of sulfur is a really great way to patina the piece or oxidise the piece. And that means that anywhere that there's a dip in the metal, the liver of sulfur will stay there. And wherever there's a high point, this liver of sulfur will rub off. And then that way you can really see the valleys and the ripples, and it gives a really totally different look to if you keep it super shiny. What camera would you like me to use, Pete?
You point and then I'll go to it.
How about this one? I think this one's this one.
Right, here we go.
If I can actually, what maybe I'll do is take some photos and place it in the comments as well. So
yeah, but we're getting a good idea of that texture there. It's lovely.
Yeah. And that's all it's really all it's about, is just adding some texture to your piece. Like I said, these are 0.5 quite thin. If it was a bit thicker, if you found a little place, you may be able to set a little stone in there somewhere. If you use like a blob, that's a real technical word, of melted silver, and you brought all the fine silver to the top of that blob, then again you could drill a setting into that and set a little stone in it. That looks kind of cool. But yeah, like you can see, I've got a couple of little holes where I just over melted, and that's why maybe if you work on a bigger piece of metal, and then you can cut out your favorite bits. So that piece of jewelry that I had, this bit here, so that's what I was talking about, using the oxidization, and this was reticulating silver. So you can see that the ripples are quite different to when I use just use sterling silver. And if I show you the back of that piece, that's super shiny, where I've used no oxidization, no liver of sulfur, whereas I quite like using liver of sulfur so that you can see the depth and all the ripples and texture's a little clearer than when you just leave it super shiny. So that's basically reticulation, guys. I don't know if I've missed anything on my notes here. No, I think I've pretty much covered anything. So if anybody else had any other questions they might like to ask, or if they wanted me to anneal a few more pieces, or let's pull the little piece that I did earlier of the 1 mil and see what it looks like.
So you're getting lots of nice comments of what you've done, Penny. So thank you for those lovely comments, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks. So this one is different again to the other piece. It's more, I've got like quite a good blister down the end here, and this bit in the middle is more kind of just bubbly. You can see where it sort of started to lift. So maybe as I saw it lift, if I'd actually pulled the torch away, then I would have got more of this kind of effect. But it is one of those things that you do just need to practice and play with. And definitely it's torch control. It's all about torch control. So as you see that super shiny, and you'll see it glows quite red, and it'll have like little dots there. And as you see that, move on to another area, then maybe come back to that area and just work it, tease it a little bit more with the torch. And as you start to see it kind of bubble, and it does just look like there's the skin, you can see that it is a skin of silver, and it starts to lift. If you take your torch away, then all that heat's gone, and that bubble then drops, and that's where then you can get the ripples. So I hope that kind of helps as well. Does that make it a little bit easier to understand what you've got to do with the torch? But it is really one of those things that you just got to play with, and it's just silver. If you melt it, doesn't matter. It'll just go into a blob, and you'll use a blob in something else.
Indeed. We do have a question here from Russell. You can use a titanium spike to help push and move the surface.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yep, that would be, and I have one right here on the bench. That's a brilliant idea. Totally. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can see that bubble. So then if you just poked it and moved it around, you would be able to play with it and control a little bit more. It's a great idea, Russell, I think, was it? Yep.
And the only way you're going to learn where that line is to go over it, aren't you, Penny? So you're going to make mistakes, but yeah, you'll have fun doing it, and you'll, I'm sure, surprise yourself with some amazing textures that you come up with.
Yes. Yeah, it looks good if you cut a disc out and turn that into on top of a ring, incorporate it within a pendant, make earrings out of it. There's loads and loads of ideas that you can do with it. It's just another way of adding some texture to a flat piece of metal without using a rolling mill or anything else. So just using heat.
So Gail has a question, Penny. Can you use MAP gas?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure. You need a hot torch, and I have seen other guys use like canisters, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not, sorry.
Yep. ask your local AJS showroom there, Gail. They'll help you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No worries. Okay, well, unless there's any other comments or questions, thank you so much for that introduction to reticulating silver, Penny.
No problem. Hopefully that was okay. And,
yeah,
you know, we got to see just another way to to texture your silver.
Torment. There you go. Yeah. I like it. Yeah. Yeah. So Maria says, I use MAP gas for melting sometimes.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And Orietta had a question about that picture she's going to post. So just answer that, Orietta. Penny will see that later and she will comment directly back to you in the Facebook comments as a part of this live video.
Yeah, totally. And I'll take some pictures of these little pieces that I've done today so that you can see a little bit clearer what the surface looks like.
Excellent. That'd be really appreciated, Penny.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, great to have you back on board. We'll look forward to our next adventures. And until then, we'll see you next time.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks, everybody, for your comments and for sticking around and watching. I hope you learned something. Get out there and torture your silver.